Hello, my fellow readers. This is Dark Symphony 777 with a fan fiction review. As always, the link to this video will be in the description below. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, click on that bell for notifications, leave a comment in the comment section below on your thoughts on the story and any future fan fictions you want me to review. And finally, this is my opinion. My opinion is not indicative of everyone in the world, so please respect that. So, before I get into the review, I at least want to say I picked this specific story on a lark. I wanted to pick a story that I was at least familiar with, that I read before, that I wanted to review, mainly due to the fact I've been planning this week-long break for a little bit before I actually did it. Ever since that break ended, I've been trying to do this specific video, but all this stuff kept happening, so I had to keep pulling it back, which is really annoying when I keep trying to plan all this stuff. So it's just hard. It's just really hard. My friend keeps telling me, it's like, you should wait until you move out before you do these videos. I'm like, I want to do them now because they're actually relaxing and they're lots of fun and stuff like that. I kind of agree with him to a point, but it's like, I've already started. I can't stop, especially now that I got subscribers that actually love me. So let's get started. The story I am reviewing is called 1 in a Million. It's written by Calhoun. It's over on FanFiction.net. So it's gonna be ponies, the pones. So let's get started. So the plot actually starts with Scootaloo's point of view. This is a first-person story. I don't really review first-person stories all that much, mainly due to the fact I just have so much trouble reading them. So and she's going, so basically Scootaloo is going to Rainbow Dash to learn how to fly. She's taking lessons, she's trying to improve, and she brings her little friends along, Sweetie Belle and Apple. So she finds Rainbow Dash, they start exercising, they stretch and stuff like that. I said, alright. And Rainbow Dash goes, okay, we need you to fly. Can you go up? Come on, Scootaloo, go up. And, Scootaloo's flapping her wings, and all of a sudden, she goes up. She goes up. And she's like, I did it! And then she goes down and she says, I did it! And then Rainbow Dash is like, And then Scootaloo's like, I flew! And then Rainbow Dash goes, no, you didn't fly. You teleported. And then, they kind of like wondering what just happened. She's a Pegasus. She did magic. But she's a Pegasus. So they go see Twilight Sparkle. Twilight Sparkle does a little digging. She finds out that Scootaloo has an anomaly in her. Basically, a 1 in a million shot. The gimmick is in the title. Ha ha ha. And basically, Scootaloo is technically a unicorn, and she uses her wings to cast magic instead of a horn. An anomaly, a genetic anomaly sort of thing. And so Twilight basically says, you need to go to magic kindergarten to at least know the basics of being able to control your magic and stuff like that. So the story kind of goes up with Scootaloo going to magic kindergarten, staying there a week just to learn the basics of the magic. And it's basically just ends up being a typical coming-of-age story, like, girl goes to place, there's a bully, there's a friend who's not really a friend, there's a friend who is a friend, and it's basically a very cliche stereotype story in that genre, so, it does what it does. So continuing on, Scootaloo gets to Magic Kindergarten, she meets this girl named Riversong. Riversong is basically a class bully. Her father is the headmaster. Her headmaster, no one really trusts her because she's a Pegasus, and this is the school for unicorns. And so there's a undercurrent of tribalism in it. There's also Night Whisperer, who is basically related to Riversong, but Night Whisperer is really, really scared of herself, kind of like Fluttershy sort of thing. And then there's also this character called Rubyshine, who pretends to be friends with Scootaloo, but turns out to be a colossal jackass, stringing her along. And so over the course of the story is just basically Scootaloo just trying to get used to everything, trying to stand up for herself. She wants her integrity and stuff like that. And but everyone's kind of bearing down on her but she's slowly learning, And then she takes a test. I know I missed a lot. I know I skipped a lot of stuff, but I'm gonna mention that as the course goes on. So she spends a week. She gets bullied. She tries to deal with it as best she can. They go to like a little carnival where Ruby Chan kind of plays his hand of being a colossal idiot and stuff like that, and he claims he's being manipulated, but he's not really. And then comes the final test, where she passes by teleport. She uses the power of teleport because apparently in this story that's her special talent, the teleport. And so she teleports so fast, like she constantly spams like teleports like in short bursts to get it off speed, and so she makes like her own sonic rainbow. Like it seems to be like a running theme with like Scootaloo centric stories of her. If she learns how to fly, chances are she's gonna do it like a sonic rainbow, whatever it is, sort of thing. And then afterwards, River Song got her comeuppance. She graduated, and Celestia kind of is going to go investigate. Overall, the plot is mixed. Let me explain. The first half of the plot, like the first 5 chapters, they're actually pretty good at what they established to do. Basically, say that Scootaloo is unique. She goes to school to learn her abilities. There's a bully. She kind of finds, she tries to find friends, but she's kind of an outcast. Typical stuff like this that happens. But she's trying to stand up for herself and be her to still succeed. But then, oddly enough, in the second half of the story, the kind of tone shifts. Like instead of her wanting to be herself, wanting to succeed, it turns into her wanting to be an inspiration for other people, and it was a weird tonal shift that was just kind of left field. Like the Calhoun tries to write it as best the author can, and it succeeds to a point, but it's still kind of a weird shift that wasn't really necessary. Like it only when it first starts, like it completely comes out of left field. Like why? Okay, we're talking about Scootaloo wanting to improve herself. Why all of a sudden like we're randomly talking to her being an inspiration for people? There's like no reason for it. And then over the course of the last couple chapters, at least got better. Still not enough that I at least have to call it out for being very, very weird. In like just an abrupt shift in tone, but I can at least appreciate the author tried their best to at least make sure try and right the ship as best they can, and make it at least make it tolerable, and not just completely just like I'm just gonna do something really weird for no reason, and everyone just hates the story like. Ugh. So. The one part of the story I did not like was the very end, because the story had a very abrupt ending. Like it started with Scootaloo getting her diploma, and she's like, I finally did it, and then Twilight and Celestia show up. Apparently, there's another character called Cookie that was kind of talking, kind of just being encouraging to Scootaloo. It's like, hey, how you doing? Turns out he was corresponding with Celestia. I'm like, why is this happening? Like, there's really no reason to do it, especially not in the context of the entire story. That was just completely out of left field. And then Celestia's like, oh, well, everything always seems to be fine when I show up. So maybe if I make an unscheduled visit, and it's like, why is this here literally at the end of the story? There's like no reason for this to be here, unless you were going to make like a sequel. And I'm like, nope, there's no sequel. No. And then it literally just ends right after that. Like, I was expecting like the actual epilogue to be like Scootaloo going back to Ponyville and just showing Rainbow Dash what she has. Like, if there was any if there was a proper ending for the story, it should have been that. Like, just Scootaloo going back home, showing what she's capable of, and like saying, and Rainbow Dash going, I'm proud of you, I'm proud of you, Scootaloo. And like Scootaloo like happy, he's like, yes. But it was just weird ending. Like a lot of people, if you actually scroll through the comments on that story, a lot of people really took umbrage with the ending, saying that was like really abrupt after ending. And those, I'm actually agree with them. It's just that was the wrong time to end the story, especially now that you have like another plot, just completely out of the blue. It's like, oh, Celestia's not going to investigate possibly with Twilight about the entire school being corrupt, and Scootaloo not even showing what she's capable of to Rainbow Dash. In fact, that's how the plot started. It would have made a great bookends moment, but other than that, it's fine. It's boring, but it's fine. Characters, you pretty much just got 3 characters. You got Scootaloo, you got Night Whisperer, and you got River Song. Scootaloo is basically, kind of like mini Rainbow Dash. She's like tough and rumble, and she wants to like, hey, how you doing? Yeah. And she honestly just wants to help. She wants to stand up for Numero Uno, especially in this new environment where everyone's kind of hostile to her, except for Night Whisperer, the cook, and maybe one of the teachers, but she's more condescending than outright hostile. She's trying to be herself. She wants to prove to everyone that she can do it, and so it's basically just her trying to prove, not only to everyone around her, but also to herself, that she can be worthy of Rainbow Dash's praise. That's kind of what the story was going for, and then it just said Inspiration of the Millions. So I'm like, what? That's fine for what it is. So I have no problem with that. Night Whisperer. Night Whisperer is the bully's crony. She's basically related to River Song, and it's kind of the doormat. Like River Song, like a colossal bully. There's nothing really wrong with her. She's just, I can't really describe her more than she's a colossal bully. That's really it. I like the fact, I find it weird that out of all the ponies, River Song is like related to Trixie. Like I wanted, like at the end of the story. No, I'll actually talk about that later. I'll talk about that later because I really like that part. I like the fact that River Song and the dynamic between River Song and Night Whisperer is at least decent. Like, again, it's cliche, it's repetitive. I've seen this dynamic a million times in like the same scenario. Sure, it's something I've seen a million times, but it's still done pretty decently overall. Night Whisperer, at the end is like Night Whisperer finally stands up for herself. Because River Song is about to try and stop Scootaloo from finishing the test, and Night Whisperer kind of reflects it back at her and knocks her out. And so River Song kind of standing up, not River Song, Night Whisperer standing up for herself was a neat moment. Like that's fine. I also like the fact of River Song when it came to her character. Most bully characters, they're usually stopped by the other one kind of getting one up on them, but this one, I like the fact in that her own ego kind of was her downfall. Not so much, her ego kind of causing someone to cause her downfall, but her ego causing her own downfall. Basically, what happens is there's a final test. There's a written test and there's a practical exam. She actually aces the practical exam. The written test, she actually fails. Like, she's the lowest score because she spent so much, the entirety of the story, just constantly caring about her looks and how she's bragging, how she's going to be the next singer and stuff like that. And she never studies because now she has, she had no one to back her up. So she pretty much ended up shooting herself in the hoof, not the foot, the hoof, because she's a pony. And it completely fails because she never studied. So I like that. I like that there's at least a neat attempt on how the bully was beaten in the end, because she wasn't really beaten in the practical exam when she's trying to mess with Scootaloo because no one paid attention to her except for Scootaloo and Night Whisperer. So So I thought that was at least a neat little dynamic twist on the whole bully gets beaten because a Scootaloo or Night Whisper that beats her. It's River Song that beats River Song because guess what? She screws herself up. But other than those are the three characters. They're the only characters that kind of stay. I would want to talk about Cookie and Ruby, but they don't show up enough to really kind of talk about them. Just be known that Ruby is like Scootaloo's first friend, but then he turns into like a colossal bully. And Cookie is the chef. Scootaloo's friend to help with the kitchen, and he's like befriends her, and it's like hey, and it turns out he's like working with Celestia. It's like weird. Grammar error. I think I saw one grammar error, like one single grammar. I can't remember what part of this chapter it is in. I think it was chapter 3. I think it was chapter 3. I'm actually getting a headache. But grammar is fine. Nothing like that. Nothing bad. Pacing. The pacing is fine, as well as the writing style. It was a good idea and a very good call to make this first person. Basically, I'm not a big fan of first person. I'm going on a tangent, but it kind of relates to this. I am not a fan of first person. That's less because I hate first person stories, but more I just have genuine trouble reading them. Like, when it comes to how I read, and I read the words and I actually translate that into an actual picture in my head, like I'm watching a movie. And when I'm reading a first person story, and even to a worse extent, second person story, my mind just completely disconnects from that part. So I have such a hard time just trying to translate and make that into like actual pictures that I can visualize in my head. And that makes it hard. Not just for One in a Million, but first person stories in a whole. It's part of the reason why, for the most part, I really stick to third person, because then I have an easier time reading them. But if a story calls for it to be in first person, then I am willing to praise that. This is one of those stories that needed to be in first person. If it was in third person, the story would not have been as good as it could be. I think first person was the right call. It really needed this. And it gave us a nice introspective. It really delved into Scootaloo as a character, her ongoing experiences, because if it was third person, it probably wouldn't carry as much weight. That'd probably be it. That's all I have to say about the pacing. It's just good call making it first person. Yeah, nothing's fine. I will say, on the bad side of pacing, that the author honestly shot themselves in the foot. So basically, you have a 52,000 word story in 10 chapters. And in story, it takes place over the course of a week. The problem with that is the story the author is trying to go for is not very congruent with the length of the story in story. Like, the author is trying to make it like longer than the story is trying to permit itself to be. Like it's weird. Like, the author is trying to make this very good story, like this very longish story, but tries to cram it all in a week, in the length, i.e., the length of the story, and it doesn't really flow as well as it should be. That's basically what I'm trying to say. Like, if the story was like stretched to a month, or the author structured in a way to kind of flow easier in the course of that 1 week, it would have worked better. But that's just me. So, so that's the end of the review. Like, I have nothing bad to say about it, except for the pacing that's being really weird, and like it's just not lining up right, as well as tone shift at the beginning that the author at least solved it for the most part, and the ending. Would I recommend this story? Yes. Is it boring? Yes. Is it cliche? Yes. Is the same idea done a million times better? Yes. But it does what it does. But it does what it does well, and that's really all that there is to it. Yeah, you can complain about the ending all you want, but that was just basically an epilogue, so to speak. I mean, yeah, you can you can make an argument for making an actual epilogue of Scootaloo going back to Ponyville or Celestia investigating or something like that. But at that point, the story was done, and it was just such a minor issue. Yeah, it's admittedly a kind of big-ish issue, but it's still minor related to the whole story because it's literally just the ending. Like, the only part I don't really like is that ending because it just abruptly stops. And even then, like, to the tonal shift, again, the author actually manages to write it for the most part, and with the pacing, it's really just a matter of, again, the author actually tries their best to make it work, but it doesn't completely succeed. But the ending is, like, literally the only bad part I have to say about it. But other than that, the author knows as well. The author, O'Calhoun, does it as best as they can. And, it's a funnish story. It's like, Scootamage. At least that's what O'Calhoun says. It's called Scootamage or something like that. It does what it does well, and it doesn't try to it doesn't try to push the envelope too hard. It's just a simple story. It's really all you can ask for this. And, again, it does the tropes well. It does, it's boring. Yes, I get that. It's boring. But it's still, just because it's boring does not mean it's not bad. It's just, it's boring. Yeah, that's saying. So I would recommend this story. Not to everyone, but I would recommend it to most people. Favorite part. Actually, my favorite part is just a small moment that's actually very hilarious. It was the only moment in the story I laughed at. I actually really liked. So it takes place after the Scootaloo's exam. Everyone's testing, stuff like that. Everyone's done. River Song got raped by her daddy. Mm-hmm. And so Scootaloo's like packing up and everything. And River Song starts coming in. I'm like, oh, here we go. Because usually in all these stories that happen, usually when the bully gets their comeuppance, they apologize and they cry, and it's like they do this whole soft story, and then the main character kind of forgives them and was like, yay. So River Song starts this whole song and dance how she wanted to make Trixie. My mind actually blanked out for a second. I was like, Trixie? Like that Trixie. Skip to my Lulamoon Trixie. Like that Trixie. I'm like, why? My mind actually froze in that moment. Like, why Trixie? Why are you related to Trixie unnecessarily? Like, why? I didn't hate it. I was just confused for a moment when I read that it was Trixie. Anyway, she starts this whole song dance, how she wanted to make her family member, which turned out to be Trixie, proud. And then Scooter's like, she just kind of like, and when River Song is like getting ready to say, will you forgive me? Scooter's like, no. He actually just goes behind her, walks out the door, closes the door, is like, no, not having that. I thought that was just a neat twist on the formula, because the main character always apologizes, and the bully turns out to be a good person. I just thought that was hilarious. You shot yourself in the foot. I ain't having that. I see enough stories, know where this to go. I thought that was just a neat little moment. It's minor in the grand scheme of things, but it's still pretty funny, and I really liked it. What would I change about the story? Honestly, we're going to have to go with the remake, maybe with an idea of a whole remake of the story, because when I read 1 in a Million, I decided to look at the comments, and O'Calhoun has expressed interest in possibly remaking the story, so we're going to go on the route of the remake instead of just adding anything. If I did want to add anything to the original story, I just add an epilogue of just Scootaloo going home and just showing Rainbow Dash, her powers. That's pretty much it. Nothing bad. So, for the plot, so we're going with a remake. What I would do is literally just keep the entire story structure the same, like the same plot, same characters, same behavior things. keep that the same. The only thing I would get rid you can go one of two ways. You can either go with the shorter way of keeping it around the same length, but trying to condensing it and cleaning up the sentence structure so it flows much better. Of getting that mean of making it still within a week, but make everything flow better, which means which means while the chapters will get slightly longer, we get more into the dynamic between not only Scootaloo and Riversong and Night Whisperer, but we also get to see more character of her dynamic with with the other teachers, stuff like that. But you have to get rid of the whole cookie plot point because seriously, that honestly needs to go. Get rid of all the cookie moments. Give her more dynamic with the teachers of just trying to talk to them and stuff and help them out and stuff like that. Or you can go the other route of making it much longer. Still keep the same plot points and make it instead of a week, have it go over around a month. So that way you get the parts with Cookie, like you switch characters up, like going with Cookie and Celestia and Twilight, going and doing all this research. How Scootaloo, kind of talking, kind of going, talking with them and everything. We introduced to more characters. We get more dynamics. We get more, it's one or the other. Like one of them, either one could work. It was just you don't really need to change anything besides just either straightening up the sentence structure, or just giving all the characters, the entire plot, the pacing, everything more time to breathe. Either one would work. So that is 1 in a million. The next story I'm going to do is Morgan versus Morgendorffer. After that, I don't really know. I'm honestly almost done with season 1 of Daria. And we shall see after that story. So this has been Dark Symphony 777, and